At 9:23 a.m. on May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day, inside the American detention facility at Bad Kreuznach, Germany, 29-year-old Helene Richter felt the buttons of her dress being torn open by rough hands. The guard wasn't checking for weapons. He was looking for scars. "Pull it up," the American sergeant ordered in broken German, gesturing at her abdomen. "All the way up. We need to see your stomach." Helene's hands trembled as she lifted the threadbare fabric. The fluorescent lights overhead cast harsh shadows across her pale skin, highlighting every mark, every stretch of flesh that told the story of what her body had endured. 3 vertical lines, silvery white against her skin. Pregnancy scars from carrying her daughter Sophia, now 4 years old and 600 kilometers away with Helene's mother in Hamburg. The sergeant crouched down, examining her exposed stomach with cold, clinical detachment. Behind him, 2 other male guards leaned against the wall, watching. One of them smiled. "Mutter," the sergeant said, testing out the German word, mother. He looked up at her face. "How old is your baby?" Helene's throat closed. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "I asked you a question." His tone hardened. "How old is your baby?" "4," Helene whispered. "She's 4 years old." The sergeant stood. His eyes traveled slowly from her face down to her exposed stomach, lingering. 4 years old. That means you were pregnant in 1941, peak of the war, while German soldiers were killing our boys. He turned to the other guards. "This one's a breeder. Nazi breeder." What Helene didn't know, couldn't know, was that being identified as a mother would mark her for special treatment over the next 14 days. Treatment designed not to extract information, but to destroy something deeper than intelligence could reach. This is the story of how 3 German mothers, prisoners of war in American custody, discovered that their bodies' testimony of motherhood made them targets, that the scars they had earned bringing life into the world would be weaponized against them. That motherhood, which they'd believed made them untouchable, actually made them vulnerable in ways they'd never imagined. Helene wasn't supposed to be in uniform. In 1939, when war broke out, she'd been working at the Siemens electrical factory in Berlin. She assembled radio components, small, repetitive work that required steady hands and patience. She was good at it, earned enough to rent a 2-room apartment near Alexanderplatz. In 1940, she met Otto at a dance hall. He was a postal clerk, civilian work, exempt from conscription due to flat feet and poor eyesight. They married in January 1941. By March, Helene was pregnant. Sophia was born in November 1941, during the first brutal winter of the Eastern Front. Otto held his daughter for exactly 11 days before his exemption was revoked. The Wehrmacht needed bodies. Flat feet didn't matter anymore. Otto died at Stalingrad in February 1943. Helene received the notification in April. By then, she'd already been conscripted into war work, reassigned from the factory to the Wehrmacht's Helferinnen Auxiliary Corps, managing supply logistics for retreating units. She tried to resist. "I have a daughter. She's only 1 year old. My mother is too old to—" "Your mother will manage," the officer said. "Germany needs you." On April 30th, 1945, American forces captured the logistics depot where Helene worked outside Frankfurt. She was processed as a prisoner of war and transported to Bad Kreuznach. Now, standing in the detention facility with her dress pulled up and American guards examining her pregnancy scars, Helene thought about Sophia's last words to her in February. "Mama, when are you coming home?" Helene had said. "Soon, Liebling, very soon." That was 3 months ago. 32-year-old Anna had wanted 6 children. She and her husband, Klaus, had planned it out in 1936, newlyweds lying in bed in their Munich apartment, dreaming about the future. 6 children, a big, loud, messy, beautiful family. She got 3. Martin in 1937. Twin girls, Elsa and Greta, in 1939. Then Klaus was conscripted in 1940. He was killed in France in June. Anna never got to tell him about the 4th pregnancy. She miscarried in August, alone in a hospital, while her 3 children stayed with Klaus's sister. Anna was a trained nurse. When the call came for medical personnel to support field hospitals, she went, not out of patriotism, not out of ideology, but because nursing was what she knew how to do, and sitting still meant drowning in grief. For 4 years, she stitched soldiers back together in tents that moved with the front lines. She held boys' hands while they died. She wrote letters to mothers she knew would never recover. Her own children grew up 800 kilometers away, raised by Klaus's sister, seeing their mother twice a year if they were lucky. On May 1, 1945, American forces captured the field hospital near Heidelberg where Anna worked. The doctors were separated. The nurses were loaded into trucks. On May 8th, VE Day, while the world celebrated, Anna stood in a detention facility being ordered to expose her stomach. "Lift your shirt. We're checking for contraband." Contraband? As if a woman's body could hide weapons in the stretched skin of motherhood. Anna lifted her shirt, revealed the roadmap of her 3 pregnancies, stretch marks like lightning strikes across her abdomen, the faded scar from her emergency cesarean with the twins. The American guard whistled low. "This one's had a few." Anna's jaw tightened. She met his eyes. 3 children, all alive. Can you say the same about the boys you've killed? The guard's smile vanished. He made a note on his clipboard. Anna didn't know it yet, but that moment of defiance would cost her. At 35, Margrethe was the oldest. She'd been a schoolteacher in Stuttgart before everything collapsed. Literature and history. She'd taught teenagers about Goethe and Schiller, about the Enlightenment and human dignity. Then the curriculum changed. Degenerate literature was removed. Nationalist propaganda replaced philosophy. Margrethe taught what she was told to teach. She stayed silent when Jewish colleagues disappeared. She looked the other way when students in brown shirts destroyed the school library. Her husband, Friedrich, called her practical. He was a lawyer. He joined the party in 1935, not out of belief, but out of survival. "We have a family to protect," he said. They had 2 sons, Hans, born in 1936, Peter, born in 1938. Friedrich was conscripted in 1942. He died in North Africa in 1943. When the schools closed in 1944, Margrethe was reassigned to administrative work for the Wehrmacht. She filed reports. She managed inventories. She processed requisitions for boots and rifles and bandages. Nothing violent, nothing heroic, just complicity, one form at a time. On April 28, 1945, American troops entered the Stuttgart office building where she worked. Margrethe was arrested along with 17 other women. On May 9th, in the Bad Kreuznach detention facility, a guard pulled her from her cell. "Strip search, new security protocol." Margrethe undressed. She'd done this twice already. Standard procedure, they said. But this time was different. This time, when the guard saw her stomach, saw the faint silvery lines of 2 pregnancies, the slight loose skin that never quite returned to normal, his expression changed. "You're a mother?" It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Margrethe nodded. "Where are your children?" "Stuttgart, with my sister." "How old?" 9 and 7. The guard wrote something on his clipboard. Then he looked at her, really looked at her, and Margrethe saw something in his eyes that made her stomach drop. Not hatred, not even disgust. Curiosity, the kind of curiosity a scientist has examining a specimen. "Get dressed," he said. "You're being moved to a different section. By the way, where are you watching this from right now? What city? What time is it there?" Comment below. These stories cross oceans and decades. I want to know who's listening. If you want to understand how these 3 mothers survived what happened in the next 14 days, and why their story was buried for 80 years beneath shame and official silence, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube that these voices matter, that mothers' stories matter, that the parts of history we're uncomfortable with still deserve to be told. And subscribe. We're uncovering stories like this every week, stories that textbooks erased, stories that complicate our understanding of war, of victimhood, of what it means to survive. Now, back to Block D. Back to what happened when 3 mothers were identified, isolated, and targeted. They moved Helene, Anna, and Margrethe to a separate barracks that evening. Block D, a smaller building behind the main detention area. 15 other women were already there, all identified the same way. Mothers. The guard who escorted them explained it with cold efficiency. Special processing for women with dependents. Need additional documentation for repatriation. Helene didn't believe him. Neither did Anna. The way he'd looked at their scars, that wasn't documentation. That was something else. Margaret, ever practical, asked the question, "What kind of additional documentation?" The guard smiled. "You'll find out tomorrow." That night, in the darkness of Block D, the 15 women whispered their stories. 23-year-old Gisela had a 6-month-old baby boy. She'd been nursing when the Americans captured her unit. Her breasts still ached with milk she couldn't express. The baby was with her mother-in-law in Cologne. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe he'd starved by now. 30-year-old Elsa had 4 children, ages 2 through 8. Her husband was missing, presumed dead on the Eastern Front. Her children were scattered across relatives in different cities. She didn't know if they were alive. Each woman had the same story: pregnancy scars, children somewhere, fear that being identified as a mother made them vulnerable in ways they couldn't articulate yet. "Why does it matter?" young Gisela whispered. "Why do they care if we're mothers?" Anna, the nurse, answered with the clinical detachment of someone who'd seen too much. "Because mothers can be broken in specific ways. Because threatening a woman is one thing, threatening her children is another." Silence fell heavy. "But our children aren't here," Margaret said, practical even in terror. "They can't threaten what they can't reach." "They don't need to reach them," Anna replied quietly. "They just need us to imagine what could happen. Fear does the rest." At 7 a.m., they were marched to the medical building. "Routine health screening," the guard announced. "Line up." Helene was first. The examination room was small, brutally lit, cold. A male American doctor sat behind a desk. No nurse present, no female attendant. Just the doctor and 2 guards. "Undress completely," the doctor said in German. His accent was good, too good. Helene hesitated. "It's a medical examination," the doctor said, impatient. "I've seen 1,000 bodies. Yours isn't special." "Undress." Helene undressed. She stood naked under the fluorescent lights while the doctor walked around her, examining her like livestock. He stopped at her stomach, ran his finger along one of her pregnancy scars. "How many pregnancies?" "1. Live birth?" "Yes." "Natural delivery or cesarean?" "Natural." He wrote notes. His finger traced another scar, lower, near her hip. "And this one?" I don't know. Maybe from the birth. I don't remember." "You don't remember." His tone suggested disbelief. "Women remember everything about giving birth. Every pain, every tear, every scar." Helene's throat tightened. "It was 4 years ago. It's blurry." The doctor's hand lingered, on her stomach, not examining, just touching. "Tell me about the birth, details. How long was labor?" 14 hours. "Complications?" "No." "Tearing?" Helene flushed. Did you tear? Yes or no?" "Yes." "How many stitches?" "I don't remember." His hand moved lower. "Did you breastfeed?" Helene's whole body was shaking now. "Yes." "For how long?" 8 months. "Why did you stop?" "I was conscripted. I had to leave her." "Ah." The doctor stepped back, made more notes. "So you abandoned your infant to join the Wehrmacht." "I didn't abandon. I was conscripted. Get dressed." Helene dressed with shaking hands. As she buttoned her dress, the doctor said, almost casually, "Your daughter, Sophia, right? 4 years old, living in Hamburg with your mother." Helene's blood turned to ice. "How do you—" "We have all your files, every detail. Address in Hamburg, your mother's name, your daughter's school registration." He looked up from his notes, met her eyes. "It would be a shame if something happened to disrupt her care. Refugees are vulnerable right now. Lots of displaced children. Easy to lose track of one little girl." Helene couldn't breathe. "You understand me?" She nodded. "Good. You're dismissed." Anna was third in line. She'd heard Helene return from the examination room, seen her face, pale, stricken, terrified. When Anna's turn came, she walked in with her nurse's face. Clinical, detached, professional. "Undress." Anna undressed without hesitation. She'd spent 4 years in field hospitals where privacy didn't exist. Nudity meant nothing. The doctor examined her scars. 3 pregnancies worth. Natural births? 2 natural, 1 cesarean. Complications? Breech twins, emergency surgery. The doctor's finger traced the cesarean scar. "You're a nurse." "Yes." "So you understand anatomy. You understand what I'm looking for." You're not looking for anything medical, Anna said flatly. This isn't an examination. This is intimidation. The doctor's expression hardened. Excuse me? I've assisted in hundreds of medical exams. This isn't one of them. You're not checking for disease. You're not documenting injuries. You're just humiliating us. Silence. Then the doctor stood, walked to the door, spoke to the guards in English. Anna didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. 2 guards entered. They grabbed Anna's arms. Wait! They forced her to her knees. The doctor crouched in front of her, eye level. You want to talk about humiliation? Let me teach you what real humiliation looks like. He gestured to one of the guards, who handed him a camera. Smile for the camera. We're documenting your cooperation. The flashbulb went off. Anna, naked on her knees, held by guards. This photo, the doctor said, will be included in your file. Copies will be sent to the International Red Cross, to repatriation offices. Anyone reviewing your case will see it. He leaned closer. And if you don't cooperate with every single request we make, if you show any defiance, any resistance, copies will also be sent to the displacement camps where your children are registered. Anna's defiance crumbled. Imagine your 9-year-old son seeing this photo of his mother. Imagine trying to explain it to him. Please, Anna whispered, please don't. Then cooperate. Get dressed. Get out. Margaret was last, the practical one, the sensible one, the teacher who had taught about human dignity and Enlightenment values. When the doctor told her to undress, she complied. When he examined her scars, she answered his questions. When he asked about her children, she provided details. She thought cooperation would protect her. She was wrong. Your sons, the doctor said, reading from her file. Hans, 9, Peter, 7, living with your sister in Stuttgart, attending Schulstrasse primary school. Margareta nodded. Stuttgart was heavily bombed. Lots of orphans, lots of displaced children. My sister is caring for them. They're fine. For now. The doctor set down the file. But things change. Resources are scarce. Food is scarce. Your sister might not be able to keep them. What are you saying? I'm saying that displaced German children are being placed in camps. Some are being sent to other countries for adoption. France, Belgium, countries that lost children to German bombs. Margaret's heart stopped. Your sister is a single woman. No husband, limited resources. If authorities determine she can't adequately care for 2 boys, she can. She is. They're fine. Are you certain? Have you heard from them since your capture? Margaret hadn't. No letters, no communication. I can make inquiries, the doctor said. Check on their status. Make sure they're flagged as priority cases for family reunification. Hope flared in Margaret's chest. You can do that? I can, if you cooperate. I am cooperating. I've answered every question. I need more than answers. The doctor stood. I need you to understand your position. You're a Nazi collaborator. You worked for the Wehrmacht. You could be tried for war crimes. I pushed papers. I didn't. You facilitated. Every supply order you processed, every report you filed, you enabled the machine. You're complicit. Margaret felt the floor dropping away beneath her. Unless, the doctor continued, you cooperate fully with our investigation, provide names, details, information about Wehrmacht operations. I don't know anything. I just filed reports. Then you'd better start remembering, because if you can't provide valuable intelligence, he shrugged, then you're just another Nazi, and your children become orphans of a war criminal. Margaret started crying, not from pain, not from humiliation, from the sudden, crushing understanding that her children could be taken from her family, renamed, given to strangers, lost forever. And there was nothing she could do except cooperate with whatever these men wanted. Over the next 5 days, the pattern became clear. Every morning, medical examinations, increasingly invasive, increasingly degrading. Every afternoon, interrogations. Not about military intelligence, about personal history, about their children, about their pregnancies, about their bodies. Describe the delivery in detail. How did it feel? Were you afraid? Did you scream? The questions weren't seeking information. They were designed to make the women relive their most vulnerable moments while male guards watched and took notes. Helene learned to dissociate, to go somewhere else in her mind while answering, to pretend she was describing someone else's body, someone else's life. Anna stopped resisting. Every act of defiance brought threats against her children. She swallowed her pride and complied. Margareta broke completely. She told them everything, every detail, every memory, every fear. They kept taking photos. Documentation, they called it. Humiliation, the women knew. On May 16th, something unexpected happened. A different doctor arrived, American but older. Tired eyes. He reviewed their files, then called the guard out of the room. Helene, waiting in line, heard raised voices in the hallway. Completely unnecessary. Protocol requires... This is not protocol. This is abuse. The older doctor returned alone. You can keep your clothes on, he said quietly. I'm just verifying names and prisoner numbers. Helene nearly cried with relief. One by one, he processed them. No questions about pregnancies, no examination of scars, no invasive questions. Just verification. When it was Anna's turn, she asked, "Why are you different?" The doctor paused. "Because I have daughters, and I hope, if they were ever in your position, someone would show them basic human dignity." He stamped their files. "You're cleared for repatriation processing." They were moved to a different barracks, general population. The special processing was over. That night, lying in the darkness among 50 other women, Helene finally spoke. Why did they target mothers? Anna, the nurse, had a theory. Because motherhood is identity. They couldn't break us through standard interrogation. We didn't know anything valuable, so they attacked what made us human, our children, our bodies, our capacity to create life. But why? Young Gisela asked. What did they gain? Revenge, Margaret said quietly. The practical teacher had found words again. Not official revenge, personal. Some of those guards lost brothers, sons, friends. They couldn't punish Germany, but they could punish us. And mothers were the easiest target. Silence. Then Anna. My children are 800 kilometers away. They can't reach them. But I believed they could. That fear controlled me more than any weapon. Do you think they ever intended to hurt our children? Helene asked. No, Anna said. They just needed us to believe they might. The threat was the weapon. Our imagination did the rest. Margaret exhaled shakily. I told them everything, every detail, things that didn't even matter. I debased myself completely. For what? For nothing. They had no power over my children. I gave them power over me. We all did, Helene said. We survived. That's what matters. Did we? Gisela whispered. Survive? Or are we just still breathing? No one answered, because the answer was, they didn't know yet. Helene Richter was released on June 14, 1945. She returned to Hamburg to find her mother and daughter alive. Sophia didn't recognize her at first. 4 months apart to a 4-year-old is a lifetime. Helene never told her daughter what happened at Bad Kreuznach. Never spoke about the examinations, the questions, the photos. She worked in a textile factory for 31 years, never remarried, never had another child. Sophia grew up knowing her mother was sad, but never understanding why. Helene died in 1987. She was 71 years old. Anna Vogel was released on June 20th. She returned to Munich to find her 3 children alive, but changed. Martin, now 8, had become the man of the family. The twins, 6 years old, barely remembered her. Anna tried to return to nursing. Lasted 3 weeks before the first time a male doctor asked her to assist with a pelvic exam. She quit mid-shift. She became a seamstress, spent 40 years stitching fabric instead of flesh. Her children never knew why their mother couldn't be a nurse anymore. Anna died in 1998. She was 85 years old. She returned to Stuttgart to find her sons safe with her sister. They'd grown. Hans was now 10, Peter, 8. Margrethe tried to resume teaching, but standing in front of a classroom talking about dignity and Enlightenment values felt like a cruel joke. She quit after 1 semester. She never told anyone about the medical examinations, about the photos, about what she'd said to protect children who were never in danger. Margrethe died in 1979. She was 69 years old. The photographs taken during the examinations were never officially acknowledged. They weren't included in war crimes documentation. They weren't mentioned in repatriation records. They simply disappeared. Or perhaps they're still in an archive somewhere, filed under medical documentation or security processing, waiting to be discovered, waiting to tell a story no one wanted to hear. Between 300,000 and 500,000 German women served in military or auxiliary roles during World War II. Tens of thousands were captured by Allied forces in the final months of the war. Standard detention procedures included medical examinations, ostensibly to check for disease, document injuries, and verify identities. But documentation from multiple sources suggests that some examinations went beyond medical necessity, that women identified as mothers were sometimes subjected to more invasive questioning, that pregnancy scars became markers for special treatment. Why target mothers specifically? Several factors. Mothers could be controlled through fear for their children, even when those children were unreachable. Some Allied soldiers, having lost family members, saw German mothers as complicit in raising the next generation of Nazis, reducing women to their reproductive capacity, examining their pregnancy scars, questioning their birthing experiences, stripped them of individual identity. In the chaotic aftermath of Germany's collapse, some guards exploited their authority over vulnerable prisoners. Official records rarely documented these practices. The Geneva Convention technically protected POWs from degrading treatment, but enforcement was inconsistent and oversight was minimal. Most survivors never spoke about these experiences. Shame, trauma, and the desire to protect their children from knowing kept them silent. It's only in recent decades, as archives open and survivors speak before death, that these stories have begun to emerge. Stories that complicate our understanding of liberation. Stories that remind us that even just wars create unjust suffering. Helene, Anna, and Margaret are composite characters representing documented patterns of treatment experienced by German women, POWs, who were mothers. Their specific stories are fiction, but the pattern they represent, the targeting of mothers, the invasion of medical privacy, the weaponization of maternal love, is documented in survivor testimonies and declassified records. These women existed, maybe not with these exact names, maybe not at this exact facility, but they existed, and they deserve to be remembered. War destroys everyone, winners and losers, liberators and liberated. These three mothers survived by learning that their greatest strength, their capacity to create and nurture life, could be turned into their greatest vulnerability. If this story moved you, subscribe. We're uncovering forgotten stories every week. Stories that make us uncomfortable. Stories that remind us that history is never simple. Like this video. Comment below. What stories from your family went untold? What silences did you inherit? Share this, not because it's easy to hear, but because truth, complicated, uncomfortable truth, is what we owe to those who survived. Thank you for bearing witness. Thank you for listening. Thank you for ensuring that Helene, Anna, Margaret, and the thousands of real mothers they represent are not forgotten.